you know, as kids head back to school, it's usually an exciting time for a new start, right? However, there might be a little anxiety associated with going back to class. Dr. Meade, our resident expert and pediatrician, is here to help us recognize when kids might be struggling. Thank you so much for being with us.
Sure, happy to.
And I know we were just chit-chatting about this. I was one of those kids, which is why I think this kind of hits close to home. Even thinking about it, I get that kind of icky feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Same. I think there's a lot of adults who still have that sort of automatic response to back to school time.
It was a really scary time. I mean, you're dealing with new teachers, new classes. Are your friends in your class? Do you have the right clothes? Do you have the right supplies? I mean, why do we get this way when we're kids?
Well, I think it's different for every child. So some kids really have a lot of separation anxiety about just being away from parents, especially if it's the start, kindergarten, first grade, kind of early school years. Certainly any sort of transition can be rough for kids, and I think there is a lot of anxiety around fitting in and making friends and all that stuff, and there's just probably more pressure now than there even was on us as kids, right? Yeah.
So how can you tell if your kid is maybe a little bit more anxious than excited for school? Like, what are some of those red flags?
Yeah, so kids may talk about it just with some trepidation. They might have a lot of questions. They might repeat a lot of questions about it. So parents, I think, will be able to sort of notice, maybe if they have more than one kid, like, oh, this kid's a little more anxious than my other ones were. They may also have some physical symptoms. So kids may say, I have a stomach ache, I have a headache. They might say, way before school even starts, I don't want to go to school. They're pretty transparent. And I think parents' jobs is really to just let kids give that anxiety and vent it out. They don't necessarily need us to fix it for them. Right. They just need somebody to listen and sort of say, you know what, we're going to be fine.
And I do feel like that's the automatic feeling maybe is you do want to fix everything. You want to make it okay. But we should maybe let kids work through some of this?
Absolutely. I think that's true. And I think the first response often for a lot of parents is, you're going to be fine, don't worry about it. And that doesn't really validate the child's feelings. So I think it's important to say, it's okay to be a little bit worried. What questions do you have? Or is there anything you're specifically worried about? And if they can come up with anything specific, then you can really nip that in the bud and address it.
Do any of these things change as your child grows into a teenager? I mean, I had those same feelings in high school too.
Yeah, I think little kids are mostly anxious about being away from mom or dad, being away from their home environment, sort of just that uncertainty about everything. Older kids, I think, tend to feel a lot more social pressure. So certainly, am I going to fit in? What is my friend group going to be like? That school pressure gets pretty intense for a lot of high school kids. Are my grades going to be okay? Where am I going to go to college? So I think there's lots of layers of pressure on teenagers that's different than little kids.
And at one point, should parents maybe get the pediatrician involved? And how can you guys help?
Yeah, so I think there are a few signs to watch for sort of more than typical school anxiety. So if your child has anxiety around school that's lasting more than a few weeks, that's not really going away in that first month of school, that's a time to get your pediatrician involved. If they're having lots of those physical symptoms, so stomach aches, headaches, really anything that's really bothering them consistently, or if it's interfering with their daily life. So if kids are not going to activities they used to like, if they don't want to spend time with friends, or they seem intensely fearful about going to school rather than just a little bit worried, those are all times when it's good for sort of a mental health check-in and great to start with your pediatrician.
Absolutely, and I do feel like it's good for parents to be observant about that stuff and also validate their own feelings, maybe trust those feelings if they have that feeling about their kids.
I think it's really true. I think parents always know their kids best, and so if you have a gut check feeling that something's not right, then it's great to get it checked out. There's a couple things parents can do also to prepare their kids. So I think visiting the school ahead of time, if possible, is really helpful. Even a few times, play on the playground. Lots of schools are open early, right? So you can even kind of walk in the hall, see where their class might be. Sometimes people have the opportunity to meet the teacher before school starts, which is great, especially for those younger kids. And then kind of practice drop-off point and that sort of thing. And then just listen, be there for your kids, let them talk about it, reassure them that they're going to be okay, but don't dismiss their feelings.
These are great tips.
Yeah.
They really are. And I know we were chit-chatting about this, but I remember that anxiety. I mean, there was just so much I was worried about, and I was a shy kid. And so that's why I think it kind of resonates every school year with me.
And I think kids who are especially that way, if it's possible, especially if they're going to a new school, those transition years can be the toughest. So kindergarten, middle school, high school.
Oh, yeah.
If they can make a friend and sort of have a play date with the child who's going to be in that school before school starts, if they don't know anybody else, that really helps. Just seeing one friendly face that they know sometimes can really mitigate that anxiety.
That's so helpful. Dr. Meade, thank you.
You're welcome.
We love having you on.
Oh,
really
thanks
appreciate
for having me.
All right, so some great tips for back to school.